spoke by what authority would you say that about me? I'm no human, I don't wear your clothes. Sex in the sky, love on TV. Empty eyes, leave it all for me. Won't you let me all night? And I can't believe anything you say. I can't believe the blood is thicker than the atmosphere. Like over the years, we're Columbus again. Living life is crazy. Watch the news, watch the news. Ladies, not destiny. Living in your bed. And I come along to dance my life and touch you. Let's get right. You can see me. The stuff is not making you like me. Sex in the sky, love on TV. You empty eyes, see how I don't want landing on my head. I can't believe everything you say. I can't believe what you say. I can't believe what you say. I can't believe what you say. Sex in the sky, love on TV. Have you ever heard of the flat earth theory?
The flat earth theory?
Yeah, flat earth. The idea that the earth is flat.
Yes.
You have?
Yeah.
Hey, what up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Forgive me, I'm getting phone calls and all kinds of fun stuff. What do you call it? What do you call it? I woke up this morning. I saw that it's funny how this legal discussion, keeps getting had. I kind of thought it funny that, it's like it's almost like write a book about law, and then so here we go. We got somebody that wrote a book about law, about the Strawman and about all the rest of it, and I was listening to Freeman Fly had this gentleman on, And, I guess more than anything, I guess I'd almost reach out to these guys. But to me, it's like ominous, shilly as hell, right? Like, and so it's a watchword to my people that know what's up, to know to look out for this kind of rhetoric, because it's the rhetoric of book salesmen. That's what it is. It's the rhetoric of people who want to make money from fear. It's like I wondered why Freeman Fly would never open up the discussion to flat Earth. You know what I mean? Because he's got books, right? You can't have books about aliens and now you got to change everything up and all your books are outdated, right? That's no good for business. So it's no good. So it's like you're suspect. That's why people, that like check into this stuff have to put into question. We have to do this, like, regardless of your position in your book selling, and that's great. But the reality of it is that the fear mongering, the rest of it has psychological impacts. And these nihilists have apparently are trying to pigeonhole this conversation. And to me, I think of it as, I was listening. There was a case in point where the brother, I think, and it almost sounds more like a radio show. And I always have liked Freeman Fly. You know what I mean? Like the Egyptians looking, like Obama was in like a statue, and so was Michelle, and like I watched all that stuff. I liked Freeman Fly. Point is, I grew up, and then I started realizing that, like, okay, wait a minute. I moved away from all that information. And now as I come back to this information and looking, let's say, flat Earth, I think I've heard that Freeman is not really, I guess, against flat Earth to some extent. I don't really know his opinions on it. It's just surprising that gentlemen that would make such connections wouldn't then take the next logical step into the discussion of cosmology and the rest of it. And I don't know, maybe he has or hasn't, and forgive me, but I saw this show last night and I could tell this was a bit of a fear mongering thing. And, the one gentleman that was on, I think his name's Clint Richardson or something. And, he was talking about, how you're born into slavery, and all this, and this is the sovereign rhetoric of bullshit. And what we need to know is that you can't even be a name. And I heard the gentleman coming to this ultimate philosophical question, which was, well, how can you get out of this system? And the one guy, they were talking about one guy who'd pretend to be dead for 7 years, hadn't used his Strawman for 7 years, and therefore he was legally dead. And that's how you might be able to get out of the system. And he was saying how people are clutching at trying to get rid of the Strawman. And this is ridiculous. You can't do that. That's this is where the philosophy and the beauty comes in. This is where the recognition, and the gentleman is on to quite a bit, but he has such a negative outlook on it that negative outlook, especially with this information, which has in it the jewels of wisdom. For me I can't stand by idly and watch someone defame this information in such a egregious fashion. So, when it comes to the Bible and the law and all this stuff, like, the gentleman is somewhat correct. However, his philosophy is that of this scary bookseller, right? And that to me either says it's either that if the gentleman is sincere, then maybe he should be tuned into this information that we talk about over here, and the idea of discharge and the notion of that all these things that we have in play are for our benefit, so that we can learn how to use this. I think he made a reference of the Pope saying that all men will come under the heel or under the control of the Vatican. And yes, if that is the case, then we need to look into the remedy of accepting that offer and saying, well, then if there's a charge against the person, then let the record show, aren't the sins forgiven and the debts paid? What makes you think that you can't call upon this system to uphold its own word? And the only reason that people would think that is because they've gone in and they've tried to fight the system, and fighting the system is not what the Bible teaches. So if the Bible is a law book and this gentleman understands that, then where did he miss Matthew 5:25 when it says, agree with thine adversary quickly, lest you be brought in the way with your brother? Was the study incomplete, my friend? Because this is the thing where it just sounds to me like certain people are trying to sell books. Or welcome to the show, and, really, tell your friends, tell your family, to tune in to Flat Earth Court, because this is information that people should know. And especially if they're into this ridiculous sovereign citizen, which is a fucking oxymoron. If you didn't understand it, because overstand's a pathetic word, understanding and overstanding, that's game from the streets. Those words are game. That's like, how to get laid and pretend you're smart 101. So, if you don't fucking recognize that game, well, welcome to the show again. So you better, because you want to understand that the sovereign citizen is an oxymoron. It makes no sense. And you can't get rid of the straw man because it's not yours to begin with. but you have access to one. You have, and I heard Freeman Fly saying, they asked me my social security number for everything. And I had to give it to him for my cable. Well, I have cable in 2 different states without the social. So tell me, and this is what I found fascinating was that this gentleman Richardson had quoted Title 42 at some point, and yet didn't understand that Title 42, Section 408A8 says that you can't deprive anyone the right of anything for failure to disclose a social security account number. What's up? You wrote a book about this stuff and you don't understand this? This is why I wouldn't dare to write the book, because I'm willing to say maybe I don't know. This is the thing in the concept of the philosophy of what a creditor is versus what a debtor is. And a creditor is someone who can provide, and a debtor is someone who complains. So what are we? And we have the opportunity for dual capacity. This is why the conversation even of flat earth needs to come into it, because it is a dual system. You have geocentric coordinate systems. You have, the celestial sphere is by definition geocentric and imaginary, actually. So the thing is that, we need to understand that this goes hand in glove. And this is a beautiful conversation. And I found that the people who have fought this information in regards to anything to do with, let's say, the shape of the earth, and then tried to lump in this, this fear mongering about the straw man and that you're born a slave, I think is just incomplete information. And when we're looking into this information, I think, I often quote the idea that, the first sip of natural sciences would lead one to be an atheist. And at the bottom of the glass, God is waiting for you. And in the same way, this discussion of law is the same concept. The first sip, you're going to think the government's evil and this, all the other thing. Well, really, government is just mind control. So if you hate your government, it means that you don't have any control over your mind, right? So what are you talking about? And so, but this first step, the first sip of the study of law will lead you to believe that you're trapped in this system. And in reality, at the end of the glass, you'll see that, wait a minute, this system actually provides remedy for people who think. Descartes, one of the philosophical founding fathers, if you will, of the democratic, renaissance of, of whatever, or, nation building, is the idea that I think, therefore I am, which implies that he who does not think is nothing. I don't know. I kind of felt I just wanted to make this video. I might have What World coming in to join me to bring out a couple other points. I'm going to check the chat, see what's going on. I know I usually don't go on this early. What up, Charlotte? The Eye, the Merged Only, Mr. Reza, Moma Serene, I Spy. What's up, Candy? Yeah. Let's see. Oh, Martin Litka. Word up. Rebel. Who else we got? Anders Ace. Anders Ace is crushing. Witch Hazel. There's Witch Hazel here. Let's check you out. Cool. Welcome to the show, Witch Hazel. Hook you up with a mod so you can speak how you really feel. And Cindy Pritchard. Word up. Flat Glenn Clark Earth. Citizen Z. Word up. Think for yourselves. How you doing? Yes. And who else we got up in here? Yeah, thank you, everybody, tuning in. 23. Is that Uvas? Yeah. And, of course, Fruity. And, my brother Chris Fisk, who does amazing tattoo work, for the record, man. Amazing artist. Actually, I was thinking, too, I want to hit you up and come down that way. Tony Vincencio. What's up, brother? And, everybody tuning in. Unruly Fellas. What's cracking? How did I learn all this info? I just learned it through trying to go through the same channels as, I guess, everyone else that's out here looking into the information. And it's basically, it's just that I continued studying. That's what I feel like happened. I lost where you're at. I was going to wrench you up, Unruly Fellows. I can't seem to find you right now. But yeah, I found, this information by looking in through a whole bunch of stuff. That's why I feel as though it's kind of there you are. That's why I kind of feel like it's and dimethyltryptamine. What's up, brother? I looked into all this stuff. Oh shit! I got a friend of mine, Cole. What do you call it? I looked all this stuff up along the way. Actually, when I learned, for instance, you couldn't own property, like without essentially because you have property taxes. And then once you start getting into that kind of stuff, you start realizing, like, wait a minute, what's going on? And then you realize, well, what is money? And that's where you start getting into this discussion of the history. And the history is the most revealing part of all this, because what it is that you realize that it does go back to contracts, and it goes back to the rules, the laws of escheat, and it goes back to the Crown of England, and it goes back to the Vatican. And so all this talk, when we do discuss these issues, if we're gonna, if it's all ripe fodder to make it big, scary, and ominous, and make us terrified of it. And it's my opinion that they want us to be terrified of the one system that we could actually get our victory in, which would be the court system. And that their agenda is to make it seem that this system is so outdated and so corrupt that we need to get rid of our straw man. We need to get rid of the United States. We need to get rid of the Constitution. It's all outdated. And this is the propaganda. This is the infiltration. This is the takeover. This is what globalism is offering. It's offering human rights, because most dipshits will want human rights versus their constitutional protections, because they're so removed from information and true understanding, and they suffer from aphasia. One of the best examples I think of as aphasia is the idea that the Vatican took an interest in the crown, and when they did, they sent the missionaries everywhere to serve the Lord, much like you are served a summons to go to court. So they served all the lands that the crown had acquired, right? And they served them with the Bible. And that's why Christ is called the offer. And so with the offer, then it is up to you to either go through the 4 doors, which is acceptance, conditional acceptance, which are an honor, and then argument and silence, which are dishonor. The idea that we have, look to Jesus, if you're going to look to the Bible about law, is that when Pontius Pilate said to him, "Are you the king of the Jews? Are you whatever name? Are you what, are you this person?" He said, "Is it you that says that, or did somebody tell you?" That's what he said, which is he agreed with him. He said, "Look, he's like," but he rebutted the presumption. So I'd be happy to tell you. Is it you that says that, or did somebody tell you? I'd love to, so long as you could tell me, is it you that says that, or did somebody just tell you that? Because this is where, we need to really understand the philosophic nature of the system. You can't get rid of the straw man. You can't, you can go try, you know what I mean? But it's still going to be in existence. Just because you disappear and don't use it for 7 years, it might list it as dead in some sense, but was there a missing report? Was there, all the rest of it? Because they have to go through a whole bunch of protocol to close that account. But if you understand that you're the creditor of that account, what are you afraid of? What are we afraid of? That's the other issue, is that this is why it saddens me. And I want to point it out when I see the ominous nature of people that would want to sell people this, their book is like, it's to do it to scare people, to learn, like, how to get rid of your straw man. If people did that stuff, they're going to get in trouble. Shit, he was reading one court case. Most of these people that are out here espousing any of this, go to an EIN number or whatever, they're people who owe child support. They're dishonorable fucks. So it's like, I don't fucking want to listen to anyone who lives their life like that. Thank you very much. This is about keeping an upright nature to your existence, therefore that you're implementing something beautiful in your own life. And you're not, like, causing trouble for others. Let me see, check the chat here. Yeah, word, what up? We got Mark. Yeah, who else did I see in here? Rob Dizzle. What's up, man? Good to see you, brother. Nice. Good stuff. Yeah. Validation Boy, too. Yeah. Validation Boy, I guess, will be going live tonight. Also, too, we got FEMA camp coming up out in November 4th and 5th in Colorado. We're going to be getting together, playing music, enjoying art. It's going to be a free get-together. You can come and join, and it's just a gallery. And we're just going to be hanging out, maybe playing some music and stuff. It's going to be November 4th and 5th. So everyone check out. And shout out to Globebusters, who shouted out FEMA Camp yesterday on their show, which was really cool. Much respect for that. Also, what else, too? Also, what do you guys think, right? I got this farm, right? And I got tomato sauce. So I want to sell one of these cans of tomato sauce for $800. And all the money and all the proceeds are going to go to this institution called The Grange. and it's an institution that is for farmers. And there's a, even just started thinking, like, look up in your own neighborhood, see if there's a Grange. It's like, a bunch of old, it's an outdated institution almost, but it'd be beautiful to, bring that alive again. It's a part of American tradition. And it only really got hammered down because of its misunderstanding of banking. And this is where I think we all come in, is that we can study this information and understand that, wait a minute, maybe we're the creditors of this situation. And really what we need to do is embrace the powerful, how they say people are afraid of success. We need to embrace this position of power and understand that we're the creditors in this institution, and it's not something maybe that we should be afraid of. Hey, what up, Ed? What's good, brother? And go find the others. What's happening, sir? Yeah, man. Oh yeah, Mo Masreen. Yeah, write a new declaration. No, we already, I shouted out my declaration. What's up, Susie Sue? We did our declaration. We, people, like, I think of it as, we have the Flat Earth Republic's declaration. If you don't know, I really should print it out and put it somewhere, but I don't. And it's just for private purposes, I guess. And but this is where law and all this stuff really starts to become fun. Because if you understand that if you send a letter to somebody saying, hey, the priority interest holder, Jimmy Bag of Donuts, is going to show up and discharge this interest or show cause why you don't owe money, or let the record show we agree to dismiss the case. And if I show up and go, hey, how you doing, Your Honor? I'm Jimmy Bag of Donuts, the priority security interest holder, accommodation party, appearing specially, not generally, merely for the moving party, present any genuine accusatory charging instrument. Hey, like, you could almost do that. That's where, like, really, because that's where it becomes, especially if you're in honor and you're not, like, a fucking dishonorable prick. You're actually in honor. You haven't done anything stupid. Like, for a weed charge, I think there's nothing more relevant than all the people that smoke weed out there to learn this information. Like, if you're a scumbag piece of shit, like, fuck off. But if you're like someone who's like just smoking bud, you fucking understand that you're up against it, like you're living in like some place where it's a problem, you might want to learn this information, because if they're going to come to your car, hey, forgive me, what's the emergency? Can I search your vehicle? Well, why would you want to do that? Well, it smells like pot. Are you sure? Is it illegal to smell like pot? Do you have any genuine accusatory charging instrument for my inspection, or should it just be all, do you want everything and I'll get out of the car over my objection under threat, duress, and coercion, and at the cost of $10,000 for denial of equal protection due process of law? Should we just do that? And that's the understanding of, once you understand the nature of the system and its protocol, you realize that all those stringent rules that are a part of it are to protect you. And there's no way that you could be a name or a straw man or anything in the first place. That's a logical fallacy. Who are you is a hell of a question. So like, because if you're going to say, who are you? And you say, oh, I'm so-and-so with this fucking social security number, then you sound retarded, right? Because that would be a silly thing to say. Let's see, forgive me. I got a good friend of mine running around the city. Lovely people, man. Good people. I love when good people are in town. And so, yeah, man. Shoot, damn. I probably have like 10 things I should have done, but I really felt inclined to just open this up and just be like, look, the fear that's coming through and down the pipe on this information is just too much, and it's going to get people, I think, it's part of that social climate change, in my opinion. The social climate change is, it's not about, it's not climate change, it's social climate change. The war on terror, the war on earth, you know what I mean? So it's like, all those kinds of ideas are applicable, but when it gets to this legal stuff, we've really got to look into the information and not just come from some perspective of, oh, well, this guy says that, I can't become a strong, like, I got to just, not use my social for 7 years and that's going to solve it all. The point is that we have to be responsible for this. And the history is, that the United States never won the Revolutionary War in the first place, as evidenced by the Treaty of Paris from 1783, and the Crown has, like the Vatican has an interest in the Crown due to a contract from 1215, and the Magna Carta was considered null and void by the Pope. And he took an interest in the Crown and everything, the minerals in the soil. of everything that the crown had possessed and ever would possess. The issue, though, it becomes to me that apparent is that the barons ran on with the false history of the Magna Carta. And that's where they actually tried to implement, like, they didn't recognize that it was considered to be null and void. But legally it is. And so right now you have this false version of history that's being taught. Like part of it, including that the United States won the Revolutionary War. Part of it being that the liberation of slavery in the 1870s wasn't a financial agreement, and that actually United States citizens weren't made to be collateral on the debt back then. That's why they said to the South, or the North said to the South, because they refused to pay. Or I'll explain it. There was a line of credit issued when the United States lost the war. That's why the Constitution is the bylaws of the United States, which is a federal corporation. And that's Title 28, 3002, subsection 15. So there was a 70-year line of banking agreement to give a line of credit. Well, come the around about the time of the mid 1800s, the United States had defaulted on that debt, and the collateral was the states. So then the North said to the South, you're going to have to pay this increase in tax. There's even a document from Lincoln to like Virginia, if you doubt it. And forgive me for not being able to say, I could set it up. Maybe I'll put it in the description later, what world gets around. So there was this, there was a default. So the North said to the South, you have to pay. They refused. So they said, well, they offered the slave, the black man down at the time, they said to them, hey, you want U.S. citizenship so you don't have to be in this form of slavery? And they said, yes. So they all gave them United States citizenship. And then they said to the South, give us our property. And the South refused. And that's when the North went in and decimated the South. And the black people were considered United States property because they had no state. They didn't belong to Virginia. They weren't established. And that's where the Constitution writes that black people had 3/5 the rights of a white man, right? So the Constitution says that. And then when they created the United States citizen has technically 3/5 the rights of a state citizen. And then there was an establishment of another line of credit. And if you remember, Lincoln wanted to change the banking systems, and that's how he got killed, because he was going to go against the contract that was in play with the Crown and the United States. Even there was an original 13th Amendment that said that no member of Congress could hold title of nobility. And that sparked the 1812 war. They came down and burned down the White House. And the reason they did that is because esquires are a title of nobility. Every attorney with the title Esquire has a title of nobility. And what's every member of Congress but an Esquire? A member of the nobility. And this is where the lunatic sovereign people go off about the bar and the British accredited registry and all that crap. A bar is just one attorney, a barrister. So the bar, passing the bar is just to become a bar, to become a barrister. It's nothing to do with the British accredited, retarded crap that people are talking about. It's just a member of a bar society, which is an attorney society, which is a barrister, which is also a title of nobility. So the original 13th Amendment was that no officer in Congress could hold title of nobility. Well, now the 13th Amendment reads that there shall be no involuntary servitude, because that when they created the United States, they were trying to, it's almost like a charade of liberation. And they said, no one can, no involuntary servitude. So they created, and they established the United States citizen, which is the 14th Amendment, which is the subject to the jurisdiction thereof, right? So the 13th Amendment says there's no involuntary servitude, which implies that you can volunteer for servitude all fucking day. So, there's no involuntary servitude, but do you just want to sign up for this little program right here? This healthcare, this whatever, these taxes, whatever it may be. If people understood, well, I'm not going to, okay, so let's take it back. So you have this idea that the United States citizen was created as the freed slave. Now, but the U.S. citizen is not protected under the first 8 amendments of the federal Constitution, and that's Maxwell v. Dow, which points that out. And then later, 70 years later, 1933, you have the banking emergency and the creation of the United States citizen. I'll remind people that Hitler was Time Man of the Year at this time. Okay. And so 1933, 1913, they met up Creature from Jekyll Island. This is when they met up and discussed how to do this. They created the Fed, the Federal Reserve. And this is when they created the U.S. citizen roughly, or to be coming down the pipe. Then the U.S. citizen was created. During the banking emergency of 1933, well, if you read House Joint Resolution 192, it said, due to the banking emergency, it is against public policy to demand payment in gold, silver, or United States coin or currency, because that was in violation of the, I believe, the Constitution, where it said that all debts must be paid for in gold or silver, right? And so the idea being now that because the public policy now said that there was an emergency, it can't bank in gold or silver anymore. So therefore, it had to create what was called the Uniform Commercial Code to outline the guidelines of how a bankrupt entity could continue to do business. And the reason that it created this, so that this is where it created the U.S. citizen. So the U.S. citizen is now providing a piece of paper, the birth certificate, and in an indented deed, almost likened to the Cesta KV Trust, where back in the days, the warriors would fight for the king. And if the warriors died on the battlefield, they would give the children a certificate of that man, of that warrior, so that at the rightful age, the boy could acquire his father's wealth that the king was holding. So you are kind of given this, because it all goes back to the crown, or the crown, and therefore back to the Vatican. The Vatican looks at each of us as the children of Adam. It cannot deprive us the rights, but if we volunteer it, then we are taking part in the thing. Now, in the system where it seems as though you can't escape it, it seems to me the only recourse is true philosophy and understanding the dynamic of the system. And I've seen it at play. I'm well aware of its possibility. And I think that it's such a kernel of information that if the history is spoken about without this hope, it is such a depressing scenario to give to someone who is unaware of this. And it saddens me that almost people would write books and want to benefit from the fear that this idea would generate, when in reality there is an underlying essence of hope, dignity, royalty, and divinity, because we are in a system that recognizes that you are a son of Adam, or a daughter of Eve, or a daughter of Lilith, if you will, whatever you freaking want to think of it as, but this is the way that they look at it, right? So their book is saying that you're a child of Adam, so you get a certificate, and then you hand it over to give as a line of credit to this bankrupt institution whose guidelines is under the Uniform Commercial Code. And under the Uniform Commercial Code, a bankrupt entity cannot demand payment in any particular form. Well, every entity with an EIN number or member of the United States is bankrupt by definition. And now think, it's against public policy to demand payment in gold or silver. So United States citizens only use Federal Reserve currency, which is against public policy. That's why they were written in as enemies of the state with the Trading with the Enemy Act, because they're enemies to the welfare of the state because they trade against public policy. And the psychology of this is that instead of us recognizing our dual nature, you have a physical and yet also a spiritual side. In the same way, you have your spiritual side is the creditor of a tangible banking system. And so if we understood our rightful capacity and understood how this bankrupt entity cannot demand payment in any particular form, therefore, like I've likened this before, if I gave you $1,000 and then came to you and said, hey, you owe me $100, you could say to me, hey, where's the bill? And I said, here's the bill for $100. And they take it and they put their signature on the back of it and then hand it back to me pursuant to UCC 3603, which is when tender of payment is made to the one entitled to enforce the instrument, and the tender of payment is either accepted or refused, there is discharge. So when I get that piece of paper and I keep it, then at the same time, what happens on the day of reckoning, the day that I have to pay you the $1,000? is that I would then come to you with $900 and this little piece of paper worth the $100. So essentially what we have the right is the right of discharge for the accounting in this system. And if, in my opinion, if we understood this, that we are owed the principal and the interest, we don't owe it. We are owed it. This is the philosophical adjustment that needs to happen. We are owed that debt. People have said all the time, and they use it as fear porn. It's like, oh, when a little baby's born, they already owe $200,000 on the national debt. No, they owe the $200,000 to itself. They owe the child. It owes everything that the debt would incur for that U.S. citizen is owed to you, the creditor of it. And this is why the Fed doesn't have to raise the interest rates. This is why even modern economics is almost like, well, fuck it. We're just going to adjust all our economic theory based on the idea that the Fed isn't going to raise its interest rate. And the reason they're not going to raise their interest rate is because every day there's kids being born in this nation. Why do you think they have amnesty? I just watched a video from this cat Wild Smile, and he was showing how this one lady didn't even know English, and she's been here 20 years, and there's no fucking way this lady passed this fucking test to become a citizen, but she was given amnesty. And the reason that they do amnesty is because then they can create more currency. But we are so far gone down this road that we don't even understand that fucking how this system is operating on us. And then everyone's all fucking pissed. Forgive me. Nice, my boys. Yeah. Let's see. I got a friend of mine coming through. Maybe. What do you call it? So this is where we're getting hammered up. Is that the idea that and then to back up all the drama, is that now you got people that don't know the system trying to tell everyone how, well, you're a fucking slave. And if you're gonna live your life like that, well, it's I've heard even people say to me, oh, you're a slave. Really? You sure? I remind people, many a man has lost his life or fortune for not knowing what he thought he was sure of. So make sure, how could you even? You can't prove anything. And this is another dynamic I see in people. You're going to prove that, that. You can't prove anything. All you can do is provide evidence that would lead one to believe, etc. This is why flat earth is so beautiful. That's why I implement the tactics of what I know about law and how to discuss it in flat earth. Because what? You can't prove it either, bitch. That's the crazy part. Shout out to Sean G. Texas. What's up, brother? Oh, nice. Overstanding. Yeah, you'd be overstanding and understanding this topic. Word up, man. Yeah, dude. Also, dude, those words are remember, those words are player games. You know what I mean? Texas be a player, dog. Because, if you understanding, girl, you understand what I'm telling you, baby. I don't understand because I don't stand under it, girl. This is just a misapplication called aphasia, or if you're a pimp, it's just called pimping. You know what I mean? Because that's how I cite it. And if you don't understand it, then you're gonna probably not understand some other critical shit, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Because there's some way other critical shit, and I've talked about this too. It's like about the minutia. It's about the minutia, and the minutia when it's when it's not covered, and when it's just, when it's even when it's disrespected for, what do you call it? When it's disrespected, it leads people to having a problem with the grander scheme of things. This is, and this is where, like I've said before, if you're going to argue flat earth, or if you're going to discuss this legal shit, you got to get it right, man. Because I personally, I'm going to start, I got to speak up. And I think I got a crew of active people online that are just awesome. And we're not going to take this. We're not going to have our family and friends misled by some fear mongering, people, man. And not anymore anyway, because it's happened for far too long. And I think it's just part of it. It makes it seem like, because what always fascinates me? I've been out here for a year, and I've been talking law, and I've been talking this stuff. You know what I mean? But then I noticed I don't garner any attention from these bigger channels. Nobody comes to check for me. Nobody, tell and maybe that's just me being whatever, but you should, shit, man. Tell Freeman Fly I'm talking shit. Tell this guy Clint Richardson I'm talking shit over here. You know what I mean? Tell them they need to come on my show, or they need to invite me on their show, because they need to address this. Otherwise, I'm calling them out. As possibly just too afraid to lose book sales, which makes you a shill, especially in regards to this shit with the truth. That's where the shilling comes in. If you're going to start, manipulating your own current line of thinking, because you got a book that said otherwise one day, then you're shilling. And that's just what it is. I mean, whether you like it or not, whether shit, motherfuckers can even take me out. It doesn't change the fact that you're fucking still shilling if that's the case. But the point is like, we can either get, like, I think it needs to be addressed. I would love for those bigger audiences to get it. But it's just interesting, like how, I've been talking this for a year. I feel like I've made a bit of a stink. I feel like I've got the ear of some good people out here. I would hope, tell these people, man. If they're going to talk law, it's like I came out here when I said, if you're talking flat earth and you're not talking about it in big respect, get flat earth out of your mouth. And I feel the same way with this law discussion. If you're not talking this hopeful idea, this philosophical beauty of the system, if you're not talking about that, then shut up, because you don't know what you're talking about. You're just going to get people in trouble trying to get EIN numbers and create LLCs and incorporations that you don't fucking understand. Because you can't even handle one corporation, which is the fucking name, which you don't even understand that you're not even that. So how the fuck are you going to understand anything about anything else? Or buy my $1,000 piece of paper that's going to save you from every court fucking thing. Like, that's what these people are on. Some people are like that. Like I said before, I know a fucking pastor, or not a pastor. I know my friend's fucking dad left his family for his 16-year-old's fucking friend. And he went off and become a pastor right now. Like I can't handle y'all fucking psychopaths, dude. You know what I mean? And like, not that these people like Clint Richardson or anything or whatever, and maybe they're just still in the rabbit hole of fear. But anyone who says like, well, let me tell you, Freeman, dude, if you say that shit, you sound like a cornball fucking shill to me. I just want to tell you, Jim, like if you're going to say someone's name, like, before you address them on a fucking, like, you sound like a fucking shill. And there is nothing I can do about that. But if you're going to talk about this legal shit, well, then I conditionally accept that you got any authority talking about it. If you don't talk to me too. And if you're just going to do it to sell a book, then you look like a fearmongerer, right? Shit, I got 1,000 subs now. I feel like I'm fucking, this is the best flat earth show on the radio as far as I know. This is like the most authentic crowd, the most authentic people. This is where the real work gets done in here. This is the trenches. A lot of people are afraid to step into my chat room, because I got the most ruthless people up here that will put you in check quick. And that's just how we roll. I got the truthiest motherfucking show on the subject, I think. Prove otherwise. Or else it's agreed that it is. And you better get me on your fucking show, because I need to be telling people about this. Otherwise, you're just going to be scaring people and pissing me off. And then all my angry followers are going to fucking just be trolling for truth, dog. And everything's funny. Remember, it works if it's funny. And that's where it's like, I'm all for fun and games and shit, but at the same time, there's levels to this. And I think in the light of this information, I think, my angels kill your demons, dude. So the thing is that we can wake up all together. We can teach one another that, look, you have the right as the priority security interest holder, the accommodation party, appearing specially, not generally, merely for the moving party to present any genuine accusatory charging instrument, or upon proof of claim that failure to provide said instrument wouldn't be a denial of equal protection due process of law. Show me how YouTube isn't fucking with everyone and denying everyone rights under Title 18, Section 241, when they're depriving people of monetization. There's your solution. You want to go after YouTube, you want to go after whoever it is, but do it right and with honor and respect. And you got, we have like, the pen is mightier than the sword. So anyone trying to fucking pick up a sword in a time when there is necessity for the pen, you are a waste of time. You're wasting the people's time. And this is the thing, is that we're, if people would rather get into these like spiritual, time is just moving faster, and just like I feel the spiritual energy, and the energy is all in me and I can feel it so fast. You know what I mean? Well, like, look, if time's speeding up and all that crap, then remember that we need to get to this information, this kernel of truth, the idea that you are an agent of the creation. You are the gardener for truth. You are the caretaker, and no weapon formed against us shall prosper. This is the hopeful message of the Bible, lest you forget and tarnish the words of Christ, which are legal, lawful, and otherwise acceptable in all walks of life, in all philosophy and all thought. This is your Christ consciousness. You can't be a hyper, religious biblicist and not understand, and you're going to argue with people and you don't listen to the words of Jesus and say, agree with thine adversary quickly. You know, it's like if someone says, you know, give me whatever. Sure, I'd love to for $10,000. You got it? That's a conditional acceptance. I'm not going to say I do not consent. That's door 3 in an argument. Problems. I might say, like, hey, I'd love to, so long as you could show me any genuine instrument from a judge that says you got the authority, or let the record show. Wouldn't you be, you know, be in a shows en action accepting a $10,000 penalty? Wouldn't you be agreeing I could file a UCC1 in the county where you live and affect your property, your credit, and come and collect real property and with marshals? You know, this is my government, right? These are my, you know, the king's men. What am I afraid of the officers of the law for, especially when we're the caretakers of the law? And if we don't get that, then what are we doing, man? You're just going to go be like, nah, man, fuck the police. All right, dude. Sounds like you got a solution cooking, right? You got like a problem waiting is what it seems like. And if we can't grasp that, let me add my board to the call. If you can't get that, then it's kind of like, you know, then it looks shilly to me, because I'm like, wait a minute, this is like old news, man. Like, you're not studying still? What's going on? Like, why aren't you studying? You know, why are you still on this like fear porn? Like, I remember listening to people don't know about, they should check out Visigoth and his stuff with the Informer, and what was the guy's name? John Montgomery, I think, and they were talking about all this stuff, and it was like, you know, oh, you can't escape the system because of the districts, because, you know, the districts underlie the dirt, and like, you know, and that just takes things back a step. And granted, it's good to understand the history of the information, but at the end of the glass, God is waiting for you, man. And that conditional acceptance is the technique, in my opinion. And without it, you know, yeah, you're never gonna get rid of the straw man. Like, when I heard them talking about, like, you know, how that everybody's trying to get rid of the straw man, it's like, wow, dude, that is a problem, man. Because, you know, a lot of people are gonna hurt because of that misinformation. When in reality, you learn how to use it. It's like people saying, like, you know, oh, just ban all the guns. It's like, well, wait a minute. Why don't you just know how to use one and protect your own house with it? Instead of being like, oh, everyone needs to get rid of them. You know, that's what it sounds like. Oh, we're just going to get rid of the straw man. And again, like I said, is this whole notion of, if you're talking about this system being outdated or the rest of it, then, you know, you're working on behalf of the evil system that wants you to get rid of this system so that it can implement human rights. And human rights are for monsters, and monsters don't have rights. Duh. That's why even on Animal Planet, it says Animal Planet, surprisingly human. You know? And I'm just like, you know, like, I think to myself sometimes when I talk to my brethren, like in Texas, you know, it's like, you know, what are we, the only people thinking about some of this shit? And I know we're not. And, you know, respect to everyone listening and tuning in, because I don't think any of you are, you know, are looking for anything but the truth, or but, like, you know, a place to go look. And, you know, like I've given a couple sites today, you know, things today. Like, each state is its own country. That's Title 28, 297. You know, and subsection A calls them the freely associated compact states. In subsection B, it says, referring to the countries in subsection A. So each state, just, you know, it's in the language that each state is its own country. If you look up the definition for the United States, like some of them is like Puerto Rico, Washington, D.C., the territories, and formerly Hawaii. Because Hawaii, when it became a state, was no longer a part of the United States. And this is what's called cooperative federalism. Gerald Brown wrote a great document. I read from it often. You know, and just this idea that we acquiesce a lot of our rights to a particular form of tyranny, I guess, if you want to put it that way, because we're not willing to conditionally accept it. And when we say no, we get beat up for it. So hence, saying no may not be the answer, but the conditional acceptance seems to work wonders. You know, it just does. I've got, you know, a couple people on the call that I've already, you know, that can come and affirm that this change in dialogue changes everything. The way that we approach the system, not being afraid of it, not looking at it like it's some evil, dark, occult, you know, whatever. It's like, what care I what the wicked do? I don't, you know what I mean? As long as I'm on my thing. And as long as I'm honorable, the Bible also says in Galatians 5:23, against gentleness and self-control, there is no law. And we need to learn this, that there is no way you could be a name. So when you go into court and they say, well, what's your name? And you say, I'm not this. Like, all right, well, who are you then? And that's the problem, is that we don't know how to define ourselves, I think, more than anything. I should have opened up with even this idea, because we don't know how to define ourselves. And I think that comes from we don't know who we are. It's like if I say to somebody, where do you live? And you tell me, like, I live in New York. Well, wait a minute. How the fuck could you live in New York? How could you live anywhere other than in your body? Right? Aren't you technically, pursuant to the UCC, the priority security interest holder? That's what you would be. And that's a recognized title in law. And a creditor doesn't necessarily have to identify himself. And if you've got a record of agreement between you and the other party that this, that it's agreed that you're the priority interest holder, because no one's rebutted it under notary seal or within 10 days, then it's agreed that you are. And nobody can interfere with that. Article 1, Section 10 says no state shall impair the obligation of contracts. So because no state, shall impair the obligation of contracts, you're entitled to be coming in as the priority security interest holder so long as you've given notice to the other party and to the court. They can't tell you can't be someone, but the thing is they can question you on it, and they could, but it's like much like tennis almost. There's like, they have a shot to, like, if I walked in and I said, Your Honor, am I not the, or Your Honor, I'm here as the priority security interest holder, and the judge goes, whoa, what is this crap? I might say, am I not the priority security interest holder, as evidenced by the agreement between the parties appearing specially? Excuse me, are you trying to trespass on the agreement between the parties, Your Honor? You know what I mean? Because it's like, and I'm not trying to diss with the judge, because the judge got nothing to do with it. He's just the referee of a matter. But we're wrapped up in there thinking that, oh God, they're culminating. There's like, they got a witch's brew in the back, and they're all like, sipping from, Satan's fucking whatever. And that's bad shit for us, because then you all of a sudden you're like, I don't want anything to do with it. I want to get rid of my straw man. In reality, we need to understand that men have to understand this business. We have to be fully aware of what we're dealing with. We can't just, cop out, because that's not what is allowed in this system. Like, it's ungodly to cop out almost, in a way. We have to recognize it for what it is. I, for myself, had to freeze. I almost felt like I had to freeze and do nothing for a little while just to study what the hell was going on around me. I feel fortunate that I was given the opportunity to. And I think that when I hear this information talked about in a scary light, it just upsets me, because it's like, wow, I almost can tell where somebody's at in their studies. And it's like, if you're still on this, like, I'm trying to get rid of the straw man and everyone's born a slave, then you don't fucking get it yet. Because there's no way for you to philosophically be a name or be a citizen. What you can have is a priority interest in it and recognizing yourself. What a lot of people have tried to do in the past was hyper credentialize that. Like create an offshore trust and a thing, and it's got a, and you're an accommodation party coming in for the trust with a UCC for the straw man, and you're not the name, you're the, and then like, even that stuff is interesting. Like that's actually more of a philosophical framework for myself than it is something that I would go and do practically. Like go and make a trust and it's offshore. Offshore, just by the way, means on the land. So it just means it's on the land. Shore means the shore technically means the ocean, and offshore means on the land. I mean, that's what tells you that even some of these guys like the elite don't know. Not that everybody knows this shit, I think, either. I think this is special information for those of us out here looking for it. And God knows, I think that I believe in a creator. I think that God has provided us a way through the thing. A lot of people can't handle that kind of thought. I was talking with one friend who said that, the horror of thinking that they were on a stationary plane and that you were like in God's little ant farm, right? As Timmy O puts it, like, is so terrifying for some. But for me, I don't look at it as terrifying. I don't see it. I see it as the way that, look, there may be this truth to the information that we know in a spiritual sense and that we feel intuitively. And like we see, things go in the ground and things continue to grow. Maybe there is no death in that sense. And also I've said it philosophically, if you could think, okay, when I die, is it my body that goes in the ground or is it me? And if you can make the distinction between your body and you, then you have to understand that you also cannot be a name. You can't be a social, you can't be a name having a social security account number. And if they call you and ask you for it with the cable bill or whatever it is, say, hey, I'd love to. So long as you could show me you wouldn't be depriving my rights under Title 42, Section 408A8, and accepting a $10,000 penalty, Judy, or whatever your name is. Because then the idea becomes you're not going after the main company. You're going after whoever's on the fucking phone with you, because they're the agent for the government. Some people put it as notice to agent is notice to principal, but essentially that's what it is. This agent is representing the company. So collectively, they're the face of the company. It's like a district attorney who is the collective face of the police force and everything else. So when you say to this district attorney, hey, do you have any firsthand knowledge that your officer didn't deprive me of my rights under the color of law, and that everything wasn't done over my objection under threat, duress, and coercion, and upon proof of claim he didn't accept a $10,000 penalty? Prove he didn't, or it's agreed that he did, and let the record show we agree to dismiss the case. Or would you like to show cause why you don't have my $10,000? That's a hell of a conditional acceptance. It's not a I do not consent line, because that's for children. And we can't be children anymore. There's too much fucking, the time is speeding up and we gotta fucking, you know what I mean? Or whatever. But it's like, it's the truth. Like, in a way we need to teach one another. We don't have time to dilly dally with book sales. Got me? So shout out to everybody out there. Shout out to Shroomy, Andrews Ace, Daylight, Ohio. What up, brother? Ohio, man, this discussion of the shape of the earth has been here forever. It ain't going anywhere. Yeah, no, Jed, I've been repeating this for fucking a year now, and I'm pissed that I haven't gotten much or garnered the proper attention I think it deserves. But, it's not for me to say. Mo Mystery, Jed Skeptic, The Eye, Anders A. Shroomy, Eli, Ohio, Pippi Langstrom, what's up? Any questions out there, I'm wondering? What's up, Gem Panda's future son-in-law? Nice, man. What's up, A. McKinsey? How you doing? Let's see here. Let me get you a wrench so you can speak freely. P. Mars in the building. Is that Twitwit? Yeah, what up, Twitwit? I've went to court. I did jury duty. I did what do you call it? Yeah, I've done jury duty, grand jury duty too, or grand jury duty. And yeah, it's interesting. And it's interesting too when they're like, okay, we're going to pronounce a true bill, and you're like, whoa, what? It's like, even think of the banking terms. Everyone thinks the United States has a system of checks and balances, just like your bank, because you need a system of checks and balances to balance the books. That's why they call it national security, like securities. You're the you're the securities. You're the collateral on this agreement. But the thing is that we don't know who the principal, who's owed. That's why the fallacy tries to play it off like, oh, well, China bought the debt. Oh, this person bought the debt. But it's like, they're all just pawns in the game in regards to the collective interest that goes back to the Vatican and the right to discharge. It's almost like you have a chance to be free. Can you think enough to get free? And that's where this is the enlightenment that I think is necessary, is that this is how we collectively, responsibly could show that we deserve freedom, or that we are responsible enough to be free and to then live free. And this, I think, is something that how beautiful would it be if we had a great number of educated people that were raising their children and no longer complaining that the system isn't teaching their kids this information, because the system is not there to teach this information because it's secular. It cannot teach the godly nature of what you are. That can only be taught from the family. And that's why they've sought to destroy the family, to take away this. And that's why they've sought to give you, in my opinion, heliocentrism, to take you out of the understanding that you're of this divine nature, that you have the right to call upon the system. I mean, I couldn't think of it better. Imagine your solution was to go into court and say, Your Honor, is there any sin that hasn't been forgiven by, that prove all my sins haven't been forgiven and all my debts haven't been paid, or let the record show that, that we can agree to dismiss the case. or and so like, but you can't think along those lines if you think there's no merit to the Bible. You've never learned the inherent principles of the Bible, which can only be taught from the family. Whether you spiritually believe this stuff, this is the system, and it was initially taught by the family, in my opinion. But then we had World War I, World War II, and they killed off a lot of our great people because those people signed up to go fight in wars and die and not teach their children, unfortunately. And God bless them. I don't fucking, it's not, I don't fault anyone. And that's something I've noticed with a lot of people is they go, oh, well, fucking the system's so corrupt because this, that, the other. They don't teach us. They're not supposed, they're not your mom and dad. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the biggest thing is that everyone's looked at this daddy and mommy complex because the family's broken. So you're looking to the state to be your mom and dad. And like, why didn't they teach me? Well, it's like, they're not supposed to. It's like if you work for a job, it's like they've expected that you have a college education maybe or something like that. They don't expect that they got to teach you everything. They're just trying to teach you what you should, may or may not know in regards to their particular business. They're not, you should have gone to college. You should have learned all that shit. Much the same way that if they're going to have, like it's not the system's responsibility to teach you that you're a son of Adam or something, because that's a violation of the secular agreement within the society, right? Yeah, they didn't. Well, I look at it. They didn't really they didn't mess up anything. It's like it's just already what was. Like people point to 1933 and such, and really it goes. You could pick dates all the way back if we were going to pick dates, because it was 1783. That the Treaty of Paris was written, and the King of England called himself the King of the United States. And we are so far removed from real history that we don't see a way out of this. And that is a part of the nihilistic goal of these, as people put, the powers that should not be. I mean, whatever you want to say, but it's like, if you're playing into the, I'm going to get, we need to get rid of my straw man and the rest of it, you're playing their game. Whether you like it or not, understand it or not, or whatever, if you're going to try to go fight this system, you're a part of their system. You're a pawn in the game. There's no other way around it. Oh, Psychedelic Christian back in the building. What's up, man? So if you're going to play into the fear, if you're going to play into the, this evil system on top and everything like that, you've got to recognize the government. Like whenever I hear someone say, government's evil, that's exactly like saying, or our government or whatever, my mind control is evil. And that means that you don't control your own mind. Gubernare mente, which means to govern the mind, government. So if you hate government, that means that you don't have control over your own mind and you hate yourself, because there's no one else that can govern you but yourself. Actually, I put in the description of all my shows. And I'll read it again because it's awesome, from Theodore Roosevelt. It behooves us to remember that men can never escape from being governed. Either they must govern themselves or they must submit to being governed by others. If from lawlessness or fickleness, from folly or self-indulgence, they refuse to govern themselves, then most assuredly in the end they will have to be governed from the outside. They can prevent the need of government from without only by showing that they possess the power of government from within. A sovereign cannot make excuses for his failures. A sovereign must accept the responsibility for the exercise of the power that inheres in him. And whereas is true in our republic, the people are sovereign, then the people must show a sober understanding and a sane and steadfast purpose if they are to preserve that orderly liberty upon which as a foundation every republic must rest. That's huge, man. You have to govern yourself. You have to love government because you govern your own mind. If you're going to let anyone else govern your own mind, then you're halfway out the door and into the FEMA camp that isn't the fun FEMA camp that we're having November 4th. You want to go to the fun FEMA camp, not the bad FEMA camp, but it's a mental FEMA camp. You know what I mean? It's like, you can put yourself in this stranglehold of fear without any way out. But I would remind people that there is a way out, but you're going to have to study first. Like, why do I, I've had people tell me, why do I want to know this? Why would I want to know? You want to know this before you have a fucking problem, not after, right? It's like training martial arts after you got beat up. You might as well, wouldn't it have been better if you trained before you got, into the confrontation? So that's why I feel about this, and it's essential. It's actually our birthright to understand these things, and that's why I think that we're not because I don't see it in the public education, so this public side of things, nor and because I don't really see it. I see it poking its head up in the quote unquote truther crowd, but it's being poked up in this like way to like militarize people's minds. It goes with the whole like the hip hop, that adjustment of people's thinking through music, and like this tone of fear that is prevalent in every abscess of this media industrial military complex, right? Because it's ultimately just it's so afraid, and like everyone's a slave and we're all slaves, and at least I can get high. And that's how you get with the pillheads. And then that's what makes me write songs like Lasers in the Sky. Because if they do have lasers from the sky, they should use them on fucking pillheads who have kids. Fucking assholes. And you can sign the petition. If you just sign in the comment section of Lasers in the Sky, it'll be appreciated. I think we can get enough together. Yeah, now. What up, Inglorious Bastard? Psychedelic Christian, Sean G. Validation Boy. Yeah, Salaman, Nameless. What up, brother? Let's see. Somebody else saying, in the end, FE people often fall into the same learned behavior traps they are supposed to be free from. Indeed, Flat Earth Accord makes a good point. He says, in the end, FE, Flat Earth people often fall into the same learned behavior traps they are supposed to be free of. True. And the thing is, though, that people are learning to free themselves from it. So it's almost inevitable that you would, fall into certain camps. And that's why it's that, we've been calling it the Kath, or not Kath Sunstein, Kath Sunstein idea of like, they're going to set up, almost like positions so that you can fall into one position or the other, and, and make it so that there's divisive camps. And this group is the real truthers. It's exactly what they did with the Russian Revolution, right? The Mensheviks, the Bolsheviks, all that stuff. It's divide and conquer. It's a Hegelian dialectic. And I was talking with someone very awesome, Plutonic, actually. I hope he doesn't mind me bringing them up. And we were talking about how what this is about is creating neurological pathways for people to be able to think. And this idea of conditional acceptance is a neurological pathway that must be developed in one's own psyche or conscious, because it's something where when this is real alchemy. If someone whatever the bad scenario may be, God willing, there is a conditional acceptance, a ladder to heaven, if you will. Where were you when they built the ladder to heaven? You know what I mean? Like there's a ladder to heaven, bruh. And it's conditional acceptance. And I think that's really it's a way out of the pit and the mire of intellectual, like some people have talked about the rabbit hole is like, if you're going to go into this information, bring a ladder. You're going to go down the rabbit hole of information, we'll bring a ladder. Well, it's in a way, it's kind of like the conditional acceptance is the way. And I think really like some people have said, flat earth is at the end of the rabbit hole, and it's like it's like there's nothing very valuable about it. But I call it it's not the end of the rabbit hole, it's the end of the rainbow. Because once you realize that all this information, it serves to educate you. It serves for you to recognize people that don't really do it right, or it serves to bring practical application to you. Like, that's the other thing too, is that there's not many other philosophies that I've found, especially in regards to this conditional acceptance, that are actually practical. Like this is something, this is practical. Hey, what's up, man? What's up, what world? Let me switch over my thing here. All right, cool. Yep. Yeah, welcome, what world. And this is like, what else? Did you listen to that thing at all? You over there? I was listening to what do you call it? This is not there yet. Listening to Freeman Fly Show, and there was just some interesting stuff, and it was just seemed very negative to me, and this very then there's like a structured solution. I don't know, and I've just seen it before. I think if once we recognize that there's really no need to go file a bunch of paperwork with UCC1. There's no reason to go create EIN numbers. There's no whatever. The Bible says, be ye not conformed to the world, but be renewed by a continual transformation of the mind. And if we change our mind in regards to the set of information, then we can change our perspective. That's kind of why flat earth was so resonant to me, was the idea that, okay, the government teaches you when you're learning, or, when you start up, the government, the federal government supersedes all the other governments. Well, that's not the case. Look at marijuana. It was federally criminalized, and then it was legal in Colorado, and some of the towns in Colorado don't let them sell it. So the town has more authority than the state. The state has more authority than the United States, which leads one to believe that the individual has the most power in this system. And in the same way, when you look at the information of flat earth, let's say, it puts you at the center of the universe. It puts you at the center of geocentrism. It's geocentrism. It's you-centrism. And then when you understand that legally applies, that's to me, it was hand in glove. It makes more sense than spinning on a ball, being a slave, right? Because that seems hopeless and retarded to me, especially after all the grand experiences I've had in my life, the ups and the downs, right? But if we don't grasp that there is a way, then the nihilism will take hold. And especially with this heliocentric fucking Anunnaki crowd, it's like, they're just, if you're spinning on a ball, I think it's akin to material. You're inevitably an atheist, materialist, rationalist, nihilist, fatalist. So when you come out of that, you have to have hope. You can't be in that system and have hope. There's no hope in that fucking ideology, that philosophy. And in that, is the recognition that you look at the fruit of those people. And then, God willing, if we can learn to live and create and provide, creating art using a balance of the right brain, left brain, paradigm, or what we refer to it as, that balance is what we want. Not, it's not all doom and gloom. And that cosmology, that's where that conversation takes hold. But aside from that, if you're going to then try to strike fear in people with like this information about the straw man and how you can't escape it, it's like, it's like trying to, because of the nature of business as we have it, it's the liquidity of the business, and we need to learn how to operate it. And it's much like, to get rid of it is just to cut your nose to spite your face. And I think the more I hear people get animated about how evil, like, and the straw man is so evil and we need to get rid of it, I just think, we deprive ourselves of time that we could be talking about the solution. Because, like I used to say before all the time, if you're going to bitch and moan about the system, it's like, dude, go write a fucking song. I don't want to fucking hear it. You know what I mean? Make something pretty out of it, or something. And instead of bitching about it too much, and like, but this issue is dear to my heart. And I actually, I like Freeman Fly. This guy, Clint Richardson, seems interesting, but it's so negative. Like if you can access these people, fucking hook them up with my video. Tell them I'm bitching and moaning about it. Tell them we should fucking talk about it. Because then, then I think, this is the audience. Like I've said, even to like, I would love to talk with ODD. I would love to talk with Richie from Boston, especially about the I do not consent idea. And like, and just all of these little nuances that I think if we were allowed to discuss them together, I think I might be able to get across certain points and maybe try to show how poignant these ideas are in this time where we have a system that is trying to clamp down on people's rights. This is the remedy for it, in my opinion. Like, I have different instances in my life use this to full effect and had been benefited from them. Most successes that occur from this information are stuff that's done, privately. It's not something that one really almost shares, because it's just something that you can, you don't have to go public with everything anymore. And that's where the beauty in this is, to keep it private and to keep it honorable. And if you're not disrespecting life and, and nature, then I think, we're completely permitted to call upon this avenue and this remedy. But first it takes the philosophical understanding of who we are to make it effective. But I understand that before that philosophical thing can happen, almost, it's like people have to go through the dark night of the information about, oh, we're all slaves and strawmen and da 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 da. But if you're going to stop along that path and you're staying on that scary dark side, then I have to like come through and be like, yo, I got to call it out, because there's still, you haven't traversed the rest of the path. You know what I mean? It's like being with like a picky, or like, it's like being with a very chaste, beautiful woman, right? You might have to go to dinner a couple times. You might have to, not be able to go in her house after 8 o'clock. You might have to whatever. But if you stick with it long enough, one day she may just give you the go ahead and say, here, would you like to come up for coffee? And that's where it's funny. It kind of leads me into what I used to say, was how some people, if finally asked like, hey, would you like to come up for the cup of coffee at 12 midnight? There's some people out there that go, oh, I don't drink coffee after 8. Thanks, I got to go. You know what I mean? And then there's some people who just understand, like, yeah, I'd love to go for the cup of coffee. And they never have to drink the coffee. They're just going up for the pleasure of being with the young, beautiful, chaste, woman, right? From my perspective, from being a man. In the same way, this information is much like that. You need to go through this labor. But really, the reward is worth it. But if we get stuck in the mire of not seeing what we're after, the goal, then we're going to be hopeless and we'll never want to get to the goal. And I think it's a shame, because all of us deserve this information. All of us, I think, are seeking it in one way or another. I think people are looking for it in more ways than one, whether it be religious or otherwise. I think this discussion encompasses the whole of it. That's the only reason I came out here, even is to talk any of this stuff to particularly flat earthers at the time, because I felt that, oh wow, these people maybe have made this psychological, this philosophical adjustment. But I found, much like, to my dismay, that there were a lot of people in this community that were, they may have known the shape, or may have thought they know the shape of the earth, but they, they're not woke. You know what I mean? They're not willing to be wrong, willing to express themselves when they think they're right, and yet be corrected if they were wrong. And like, that's what the other thing too is, we don't say I'm sorry. I'm sorry is, the full line of that is I'm a sorry sack of shit, right? So why would anyone say that? Proper English dictates that we should say, excuse me, pardon me, forgive me. Because this implies that we're going to correct our behavior. It implies that, there is like an element of understanding going on, of like, of respect for the other person's position, and that's proper English. We're stuck using, we're suffering from aphasia. We don't know the language we're using. And I see like people kind of clutching for straws with this information. And it's tough to watch, because, I do care about everybody. When I talk about this subject, I've said it before, I separate morality from the subject matter. So if I speak a little harsh about this stuff, please forgive me. And I don't, there's no other way to discuss this information, to understand it technically, to be able to apply it morally. If we don't understand the technical thing of this, we can't say to ourselves like, oh, transmissions are bad because they're complicated. It's not how it works. It's just, it is what it is. It needs to be, there's a protocol to how a transmission works. Well, there's a protocol how to this historical, most eloquent place, what we commonly refer to as court is, public court. But really, in reality, what's the definition of court? The definition of court is the residence of the sovereign. And sovereign just means authority. So you're the authority over your own life. So you're always in court. You're never not in court. And we don't the residence, the term residence is used, the only proper usage is when it's used in a doctor's residency, which implies that he's not from there. So if you're a resident of Chicago, Well, that means that you're from the United States, you're in Chicago, but you're not from there. You're classified as an enemy of the state. And if they catch you doing something, they're going to lien the birth certificate bond, which is traded on the SEC, because that's the agreement. If they catch an enemy of the state in their state, then they get to lien and get the proceeds from the birth certificate bond being traded on the market, and they get those funds. That's why the private prisons have learned how to do this. That's why you have triple life sentences, so they can monetize the bond continually. That's why they have probation. You sign up again so that they can lien the bond, and then should you violate the probation, they can put you back in and lien the bond again, even extra more. And they have to add more penalties to it. And it used to be it was an enemy of the state. Now it's classified as a domestic terrorist, and they up the value of the bond that the state can charge the United States if they catch one of them. And it's this repetition of printing money and people not knowing who they are. And that's why the Fed doesn't care. They keep the interest rate low because every day more people are being born. They don't care that people don't get it. It's not their business to explain it to anyone. But it's also such a profound idea that I almost wonder the philosophical nature of it is kind of cloaked in the secret orders of the day, because there's a philosophical recognition of it. And there's also a seek for power due to this information. That's why I think about how, if I was a real fucking scumbag, I could come out here and over mystify all of this shit and get everyone terrified, probably create a cult, because I could talk about and make it all mystical and fucking hoodwinky and shilly as fuck. But that's not what I'm here to do, is it? Well, God knows, right? And that's what I've been consistent about everything I fucking say ever since day one. So, all I'm doing is trying to bring this information to people because people need to learn it. This needs to be learned and taught in the family. And, we don't have the family anymore. All of it, a lot of people don't, our parents are fucking baby boomers who fucking never taught their kids anything because they were never raised by their parents, because they were just happy that their little sunshine snowflake is fucking alive. So, you know what I mean? They never taught the little sunshine snowflake how to fucking do anything. So they stuck with their Marlboro Man Bernaysian bullshit that they were sold, where they're just silent but deadly and ultra. I just go to work and suffer and drink beer, man. You fucking cucks. And this is why we're fucking facing. So don't even talk about it. It's almost like, don't even talk about it, man. Just go study. Because there's no bearing on it, on historical consequence or any of it, because no one's looked into this information. And if they do, they're like, well, I remember 1960. Fuck 1960. You better go back to fucking 1783. Then you got to go back to 1215. Okay? So don't fucking talk about 1960s as some fucking part of history. You know what I mean? But not at least effectively. It's not going to be effective in what we're trying to talk, or what our solution is. We can bitch and moan all day, but that's not going to get us anywhere. It's in my opinion that the philosophical power of conditional acceptance is so it's necessitous, if that's a word. I don't know. It's of high, it's very needed. It's forgive me. It's long overdue in our communities, and we have a right to the information. But we don't have a right to violate the contracts that we may be involved in, or the contracts that our straw men may be involved in, that we're the stewards of. Now, granted, I wouldn't tell anyone to go race and do anything until you've studied 3 years, and put your time in, you know what I mean? And realize, once you recognize that, okay, even for myself, I would love it if we had a bunch of people that really were actively studying this and then going through their own processes or something like this. I know Gordon Hall used to do something like that, but I've never wanted to go public with this. I just want to talk about the philosophy, because I don't want to get into the practical possibilities too much. Those are the things better left in private. And people know, I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. God willing, if I could even offer some private help, I would. You know what I mean? And I don't fucking, I've had some lovely people offer to throw me money for it and shit like that. And I don't, this is your birthright. This is your information. It's for you. You're supposed to have already had it, and it's a shame to me that we don't already have it. I've done a lot of study trying to find it, and that's why I think that it's like I have to come out here and speak, step up on my own behalf, because no one's going to do it for me when I see this information being discussed about in what I think is incorrectly and in some fearful fashion. So I don't know. It's kind of, I'm in my own little conundrum of, and I've said this before, it's like creditors and debtors. Like, as a creditor, it's almost like, there's no, it's like as a creditor, it's almost like you don't have to reveal yourself. And I think of it like, in a way, I don't owe anyone this information, but in a way, everyone deserves it. And I think, like, let's see, they lie, Ohio. Oh, yeah, you're scared. I doubt Ohio is scared. I think everyone is some. Oh, shout out to Plutonic, man. What's up, brother? Also, if you'd want to join, let me know in the chat, man, and I'll add you to the call, Plutonic. Like if this is where, like, and that's cynical, and that's why actually I like, it's like there's certain people that are very skeptical of flat Earth and very this, that, the other thing, and that's fucking fine. Still, as individuals, like I love all y'all motherfuckers, especially these cynical bastards who don't fucking give a shit, because that's what it takes. We need, like, I look at it like the good Lord gave me the cynicism to doubt the good Lord and his intentions, right? But what I discovered through my own thing is that, wait a minute, this seems actually pretty, like the good Lord is actually the good Lord. Like, and he's like, it's almost like, told you, bitch. You know what I mean? Told you there was a way, the light, the truth, the remedy, all that naivete of the Christian doctrine that people, like, Jesus, and like, just by saying Jesus' name is going to be saved. Like, like all that naivety, you know what I mean? That, like, well, all my sins are forgiven. It doesn't matter. Like, all that stuff is almost actually fucking tangible in light of law. But you have to go through this dark underworld of information and lack of hope to get there. I always remember, Tsarian, he put it well. It's like, it's not that you were sold a lie that gets you. It's that you bought the lie and, what you paid for it. You know what I mean? Like I had like a crazy ex. Like I said, like my ex was like the Charlie Zelenoff of fucking dating. I don't know if you guys know who that is anyway. Because somebody, Sean G, is that not a great line? My ex is the fucking Charlie Zelenoff of fucking dating. Please, someone tell me that they got that joke. Oh God, I hope somebody got that joke. It's too funny. But seriously, like I freaking let's see. Okay, got you, brother. Like I hope somebody got that joke. Anyway, like I had to understand, like, oh shit, I'm dealing with this fucking liar, and so when I realized like that, I had to like suck it up. It's like suck it up, or what is it? Fuzzball. So like I had to figure it out. Like, wait a minute, and I had to suck it up and get back to my own mental state and health. And it took a lot of, for me, it took a lot of rebuilding, and study. And I kind of put my anger and everything like that into my own study, because I had a whole bunch of shit going on, and I was dealing with a sociopath, and I freaking like had to break away and then also establish all this other shit that I was doing. And part of that was realizing, like, it's not that I bought the lie that was, or not that I was sold a lie. Like, it wasn't this person that was lying to me. It was that I fucking fell for it. That was the killer. And that's the thing when in regards to all this stuff. I mean, even think of it like this. It's like, think about even, that's why people leave flat Earth, is because they're like on a ball. They find out about flat Earth. They go to flat Earth, and then they realize all the people there are fucking crazy too. So then initially, so what they go right back to their old belief system instead of pursuing it on their own. And this is the courage that it takes, like to even have no cosmology, to not be sure. That's why I respect Cathexis. The one thing he's been consistent about is his non-committal, stance in regards to the shape of the Earth. And he's one of the most well-educated people about it, because that's what happens when you study in any subject. Instead of it just being good or bad, or like, it's the Jews or anything like that, it's like, it becomes more complicated than that, and you realize its complexity. And now it almost comes to a point where you, like I said, you become the creditor, and now you just shut the fuck up all the time because you don't even think of it. You know that the situation is far too complex to almost do anything. The reason I'm out here, any of my friends I know that are out here like Cathexis, is that we think it's been far too long that the creditors have remained silent and not at least attempted to shine some light into this information. And it's been, particularly with the subject of law, it's something that gets slanted in this scary direction by people who really don't fucking understand it. Pardon me one second, everybody. Cool. How did I know that would happen? Cool. Well, send me money. All right, yo, what do you call it? So next thing is this, is that, well, how could I live anywhere, right?
Right.
So like the thing is, no shit, really? That's fucking
Yeah.
lame. Wow. That's wild. What do you call it? All right, so check it. So I look at it like if we don't get this information right, then we will never be able to really actually, I guess, penetrate through any philosophical wall that's put in front of us, man. You know, and that's where it's at. Hold on, I'll be right back.
As Issa handles some business. What's up, chat? How's everybody doing today? That's good people in the court.
Yeah, what up?
Exposing this Shilly ominous sovereign citizen
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Trojan horse meme, making everybody afraid. Legal fiction. Yeah, man. Do what you need to do, man. What evidence would you like to see, P? What's up, Hank? Good to see you, man. Added you to the call. There's a few other people as well. If y'all want to join in, ask questions, just put a request in the chat. Try to get you added. But yeah, I sent invites out to a few people. Sean G added you as well. But yeah, what was that evidence you'd like to see, Mr. P? Let me know. I'll see if I can pull some up for you, show it to you, depending on what the subject matter is. But yeah, I don't know if y'all caught it, but evidently.
Yeah.
Oh, you're back.
Yeah, what happened? Is they spamming my shit?
No, everybody's coming over to your house to hang out.
Word. All right, what's up?
Party
Word
at Issa's
up.
apartment.
Word up. Yeah, what's up? Word up. Foolishness. My gosh. But what do you call it? Yeah, I got a friend of mine here I am gonna have to fucking maybe. Well, let's hold on a sec. I'll step 1 sec.
But yeah, I don't know if anybody else caught it, but Freeman Fly had what's his name on Clint Richardson, something about escaping your straw man, which is almost oxymoronic because it's not yours. Like, how could it be? Something that I mean, that just listening to like the first 50 minutes of his interview, it seems like the guy was talking out both sides of his neck. Like 1 minute things have no relation to another, and the next minute they do, and you know, it's not yours, but it is yours, and you have to escape from it. It's just, don't fall into the trap. Some of these sovereign citizen types are full of crap. It's a Trojan horse, sovereign citizen, straw man, psyop meme.
Yeah, what up? Everybody meet the cat that fucking made me fucking blast my shit out. What's up, nigga? Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah. Yeah. We're all good though. We hanging, rocking and rolling over here. And shit. It's like, what's up? Send me money. What's good, world? Oh yeah. So let me open it up so you can hear everything. Because motherfuckers can't hear shit. You can hear me, world? You there?
Yeah, I got you. You're good.
Yeah. Cool. Let me see here. Yeah, check 1 2. Speak for him, bro. Can you speak?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Okay. Good. All right. Cool. So now you can hear everything. Yeah, man. What do you call it? So let's see what we're getting into. So what's the name? Clint Richardson. Shout out to Clint Richardson. He should get in touch. And I think basically, if they're going to talk about, what do you call it? Doing any, like being afraid of the straw man, being afraid of all that kind of stuff like that, then they need to recognize that if they don't understand the conditional acceptance, then they're going to be stuck in that loop, and it's just going to be something that's going to be eternally going, creating a problem, because you're going to try to separate your straw man from yourself, but reality, that's like almost like letting a ship off into the ocean. It's like, why not just take care of the thing that you were provided and learn how to use it? It's like saying, like, I'm going to get rid of my boat because sailing is too difficult. And it's like, you have no other fucking right but to learn how to use the vessel and learn how to sail. You want to roll some up?
Right. Well, the other thing is just the title of the interview was "Escaping Your Straw Man,"
right.
And right there in the title itself, it's like, it's not yours. How could it be? And that's what he talks about. He's like, he talks out both sides of his neck, like how the legal system and the Bible are not congruent; they're totally opposite of each other, which I would present that it's technically not, because it's written off the same ecclesiastical basis, and they are actually mirrored. That's why it's much more of a commercial book, like we talk about. And then it's, one minute it can't be you and it's not you, but and it's not yours, and then the next minute it is yours and it's attached to you. So he's just like, I think he's confused. The one thing that he said was, the one thing I want, if you take nothing else away from this interview, is that you are a slave. You're born a debt slave with a straw man, and that was his whole point that he wanted everyone to get, which is totally fallacious and kind of fear mongering and Trojan horse, psyop, sovereign, straw man meme.
Dude, and what about was that funny the other night with Hangnell's super sovereign friend?
Oh yeah, he's super sovereign.
Oh gosh, yeah, and like that's the thing too, is it's like, if people don't get it, that it's like you can't escape. Like I guess what's a good way to put it? It's like you're on a boat and you're gonna try to jump off, and it's like, you're gonna jump off onto what? And and then at that point, it's like, who's gonna save you? And everyone's looking for a savior. And if they're stuck looking for a savior, or stuck looking for a captain of their own vessel, then that means that, and then on top of it, you're going to say that you're sovereign. That means you just, like, a sovereign means authority. So if you prove that you're not aware of what's going on, then you're obviously not the authority. And that's why a judge might say to you, hey, you might want to get an attorney because you're going to hurt yourself. Yeah, thanks, bro. I think it is. I did find it odd because there's like that notion of like hopelessness, but yet that like the Bible's a law book and all this understanding. Fuck, can you hold that 1 second? Yeah. Thanks, Bill. I'm about to lose this cool. There you go. And then this idea of how like I got it. How you good, bud? Thanks, Bill. Like yeah. If you're gonna be a sovereign, then you got to know your business. And if you don't know something that you're trying to claim that you're the authority of, like if you're the authority of your whole essence and whatever, then it's my opinion that no man is sovereign under God. So it's like recognizing that philosophically you are. There's no way that you could be a name. There's no way that you could be or there's no way that you could even know your name. The idea is that your parents took a shot at it when they gave you the name, and the idea is that they're attempting to name what they think you are, but in reality, wouldn't it be the truth that only the Creator understands who you are? And this is the real, I think, crux of the whole situation is that do we know who we are? Where do we what is our station? And if we're going to grasp that stuff and we're going to say like, oh, this straw man, this thing and the other thing, we're going to escape the straw man.
Yeah. Why would you need to escape something that you could never or were never a part of unless you voluntarily put yourself in that label and that condition and that status?
Right. And I think the more I hear this stuff, that's what upset me, I guess, was going into that show was the idea that there was like a semblance of of, like I said, the whole fear of it, because it's almost like a guaranteed sale. Like the idea is that like you're a straw man. Everyone has it. It's like you're taking something that everyone is a part of and trying to bring fear to the discussion. And make it so ominous that people are going to, it kind of leads itself into the great wild yonder of like, of human recourse, and humans are considered to be monsters. Essentially, if you don't have self-control, then you're essentially a monster. And so if you're not going to, take control of that and understand these things, then, and you're going to thrash and rail against the society, then you're a monster. And humans have no fucking rights. And that's why they've classified people as United States citizens in order to curtail the U.S. citizen from actually being able to be a complete monster and call on law to solve the problem for them. Because
to remedy the situation, right?
If there's got to be a check on this monster that exists. And the monster is all they know they have to do, they just, in order to make sure that it's a monster, they say, are you a U.S. citizen? And you go, no, I'm not. Well, he who does deny admits. That's a maxim in law. So you say, I'm not a citizen. Well, I do not consent. Well, that means you consent.
Yeah, it goes back to the philosophy of like making statements rather than conditionally accepting and asking questions. And as king, having the capacity to do so, acting, because if you're making statements, if you're answering questions, then you're testifying. You're in the debtor position. If you're asking questions and conditionally accepting, then you're in the creditor position, and creditors never lose.
Right. And also that's the thing too, with creditors also don't have to, well, this is the whole dynamic about coming out here even. It's like the idea of like, I could be a creditor and just use this information for myself and be a dick to everyone and use them and abuse them and use this information. But the thing is that I think that the higher nature of this concept, it almost like, the eyes that have, the eyes that can see and the ears shall hear will get it. And everyone else will sit there and wonder dumbfounded, what just happened to them and why they lost, or whatever, because they went across somebody who knew their business. And that's the thing, is that we want to be honorable with all of these things. We don't want to be dishonorable. We want to know that we're in a system that actually upholds this nature or this idea that you're a part of creation. And that you're a child of Adam, and Eve. And the idea, that's how they look at it. But they've also got to bear down on the human monster, and the distinction between a human and a monster is that or forgive me, men, women, and humans. The difference is men and women have faith in a creator legally. These are the definitional terms of it.
The reason why they separate church and state, one, because church has a lot more power than state. And
Well, the
they
church
separate them.
well, then they have to. Well, again, right?
Communists, you see, David Koresh and all that.
Well, yeah, no, those. That's
they
like
get too much power. They make their own fucking government right away.
Well, I think anyone can take advantage of the concept of government, and they can even use it. They can even go so far as to use the United States government. Never mind their own house. So, like, the idea is that if they are going to implement the power, my thing gets me to the point of like I think of it like us as the people that are the ones on the land, and if we have honor and respect, we can use the system, the codes that are inherent in the system, to put the sociopath who may be in the office of that institution in their place. Because they can't violate the stringent laws, and that's why the sociopath the sociopath that's in power in that position is trying to tell you that the system is outdated and fucking too old. The Constitution's outdated. You want fucking human rights. So the whole thing is that they've taken the mouthpiece of this. That's why people talk about television. Really, all television does, remember, it's listed as a weapon, is the idea that it gives and institutes the federal agenda and the federal mindset across the different countries. Remember, each state is its own country, so it's broadcasting all of its federal information and agenda and sociopathic tendencies right into the homes of people that are in states that have nothing to do with the federal government. So now all of a sudden you've injected this personality of you think you're the United States citizen. It's like, what company have you ever worked for that you got to vote for who the president was going to be? None. The point is that you don't, as an employee, each U.S. citizen is considered an employee of the United States. That's Title 552A. So because it's an employee of the United States, what makes you think the employee has any say in who the fucking president of the company is going to be? You've never seen that before in your life. Why would you expect that in fucking government? So like, it's like, okay, so when you start breaking down the technical analysis of the system, it's actually something that is recognizable. We can see why certain things work. And then you start to understand, okay, wait a minute, to demand payment in any particular form or gold or coin or any currency of the United States is against public policy. Therefore, this opens up the discussion of what is finance, what is this debt issue that everyone's dealing with? Like, let's say, even if you had a credit card or something like that, it's not like, that you wouldn't pay something. It's just that you're paying it in a different way that is totally acceptable by the UCC. But if we are going to accept the narrative of the people that would tell us otherwise, then it would be incumbent on us to have them show cause why it wouldn't be a deprivation of rights under the Uniform Commercial Code. The whole thing is that you have this whole structure, this whole legalism, admiralty maritime law is there for you to put psychopaths in the box and then identify them. And then, like, I've said to officers on the side of the road, I said, look, I can't fight you on the side of the road about whether or not you want to search my vehicle, right? However, my only recourse is to sue you, right?
Yeah, because you're licensed, bonded, and insured that if you were to make a mistake, then you would be held personally liable.
Right.
Your office would be.
I'm not going to physically go after you, but you're agreeing that if you want to search the vehicle in deprivation of rights without a crime having been committed, without probable cause of a crime having been committed, then wouldn't you be agreeing to a $10,000 penalty? And if I can't fight you physically, do you not think I have my rights to sue you and take your money, take your car, treble damages, punitive damages? Do we want to do this? And this is the alternative. And that's where I don't think that officers or anything are so I think they're awesome people. Like I've said before, they're the king's men. They're the king's men, and we have to treat them with respect. I look at them as men and women that I went to high school with that need to get home to their family that night, and they don't need a problem from me. And that's where, and it's like any of that kind of stuff is against, none of that would ever work. And that's what gives a bad rep to this information, is that people come across this information about law, then they want to go be a tough guy on the street because they're a man, and they don't want to, they don't understand conditional acceptance. And that may work, as I've seen certain people in like England and whatever like that. But I wonder, isn't that like, that almost seems like a psyop to me, that people would get those successes just to be able to make people think that they could do it that way. And then make people go try to do it that way, so then the state can chomp down harder and bring its boot on top of people that would try it. You want to talk about psyops? You know what I mean? Is the idea that you can, just I'm a man is going to cut it. I think Gordon Hall did a great thing with Carl Lentz when he shut him down, and still Carl Lentz wouldn't get it. But a lot of these, I've come across a bunch of people that love that brother, and that's cool. But I note the argumentative fashion with which they do it, and I think it's something that we need to correct potentially. What's up, world?
No, I agree. I agree completely.
Yeah, man. What's cracking in the chat? Let's see what's going on over here. Let's see here. Yeah, shout out Negator. What's up, Neg?
Hank and Nega going back and forth.
That's all good. What up, Shibby McGee? Theodore, Christopher.
We got people believing in Stephen.
What's up?
We got people believing in Stephen.
Oh, yeah, nice. We got the LSC Earth word. Flat Earth Accord. Yeah, man. Who else we got here? They Lie, Ohio. Yeah. Shout out to everybody. Yeah, man. But yeah, I'm glad we call it. Thanks for coming on, brother. I think I might even cut it down.
Yeah. You got company, you got things to do. We can pick this up at a later time.
Yep, I got much respect to everybody tuning in. I appreciate it. If anything, get word to Freeman Fly that I'm talking shit, and get word to Clint Richardson that I'm talking shit, and tell them come and either maybe invite me on their show, or they're welcome to Flat Earth Court if they want to defend the Shillery, because it seems a little shilly to me.
Well, there again, Sandlot's razor wouldn't attribute to malice what could easily be explained by mistake or stupidity or error. It just might be a misunderstanding. Like they did quite a bit of research and went through the history, but didn't
if I were to go to
grasp the hidden justice,
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, if I was like,
you're such a dick.
What world? Something I want you to understand. What world is to automatically fuck you, right? I mean, that's my opinion. Like, if I'm gonna fucking speak to you like that, like I gotta think like, yo, dog. Like, so like Clint Richardson, I'm talking a little bit of shit. Freeman Fly, I'm talking shit. I think you're a little corny. What do you call it? And I think come and get at me. You know what I mean? Let's talk about it. I'd love to discuss. I'd love to discuss Flat Earth with Freeman Fly and be like, what the fuck, dude? And then I'd love to discuss law with Clint Richardson and be like, why so hopeless, my brother? Because, I think that really if we don't understand the conditional acceptance, we're doing a disservice to the community. And I'm going to call it out. So, respect to everyone. I freaking love you. I'll end it the same way. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Amen. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, Master of the day of judgment, it is thee we worship and thine aid we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those on whom thou hast bestowed thy grace, whose portion is not wrath and who go not astray. Amen. Peace, everybody.
Peace, brother.